Welcome to the Low and Slow podcast.
We're your girls, Crystal and Laken. If you press play today, trust, you made the right decision.
And know, whenever you're listening to this, it's exactly the right time.
We invite you to pull up a seat to the conversation, get curious about your current perspective,
and lean in for the opportunity to see yourself in another woman's story.
We created That Girl Magic because we've been where you are.
Here, the talk is real and the breath is steady.
Let's get into your next mindset shift.
Welcome back to another episode of the Low and Slow podcast. It's your girls, Crystal and Laken. And today we are talking about a juicy topic. So self-abandonment, we know that very well, and how we can go from people-pleasing to ultimately self-loyalty, loyalty to ourselves. Lake, talk to us about what we're getting into today.
Yeah, so we know this time of year, ladies, we are feeling a lot of burnout, resentment, people-pleasing tendencies coming around, right? So today we're going to name those patterns and the self-abandonment and where we're saying yes to everybody else but ourselves, and then address how we can reframe that for you guys.
Yes, with the reframe. So we'll show you where does this start? When does it first come up, right? How is it hiding? That's those sneaky little words called your language, and how we can make those swaps. So let's get into what self-abandonment looks like, right? Let's make it real obvious for the
easiest one where this comes up is, sure, I can do that, right? I was like, how many times do we hear women that's the conditioned immediate response of like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I can do that. I don't even have all the details, but I'll make it happen, right? And that's probably going to cost me some sleep. It's probably going to cost me some time to prepare my food. It's probably going to cost me a little bit of sanity, but I'll make it shake.
I'm laughing and sipping my
because
tea.
You do it.
Okay, yeah, I do sometimes do that. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And then I'm like, I can't do that. Wait a second. I need to actually, no. I'm at capacity. Sorry.
But the difference is at least you will say like, yeah, I can do that. And then you'll reconsider. Like at some point you'll be like, oh, maybe I can't do that right now. Or maybe that's too much on my plate at once. And then you'll reassess, as opposed to most women will be like, yeah, I can do that. And then it's like, well, I said I would do it. So now I have to make it happen no matter what.
Oh,
and that's me.
And who does that sound like?
Yeah. That's why I'm not trying to say it. Because if I say it, yeah, I will force it and make it happen, even if it costs me something, for sure.
Okay, well, this is a beautiful way to open up, because you have two prime examples here of where this can show up, right? And ultimately, it means nothing about us. Let's just say that and get that out the way, right? Because if we're aware that this happens, then when this comes up, this is our opportunity to do different, right? And this is if it continues to be a thing, aka a pattern, right? We can decide to do different. So this is the quiet way that this shows up is over-explaining, right? Breaking those promises to yourself. So I said I was going to do this, but then this came up and, oh, it's okay. Like I could just do this, right? Or
my shit goes in the back burner.
Yeah, like, oh, I don't know, I could do it another time. It's okay. It wasn't that important or whatever. This looks like laughing things off, right? Of like, if that was really important to you, like, why are you downplaying it, right? Why are you trying to make
like,
it seem
I'm struggling on the inside, but it's okay. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Like, no, girl, you were at capacity here. So these are like some quiet ways / masks that we will do certain behaviors to not want to say I'm self-abandoning, because saying I'm self-abandoning tastes like vinegar. It does. Yeah. When we say that.
And if you are conditioned to provide an instant yes as a response, and there's delayed resentment that comes on the other side of that instant yes, right? And that's like, I think about it as like buyer's remorse. It's like, oh, yes, I want that. And then later you're like, oh, like, do I really need this? I majorly regret this purchase. Like, this isn't practical. I'm never going to wear that shit. It doesn't even match with anything that I have. It's like, yeah, that's what's happening. You have this delayed resentment, right? And that's going to show up in things like when your needs that are not being met, are falling off when everything else is still piling on, right? If I'm performing, if I'm saying like, oh no, I'm fine. I got it. I'm fine. That's where those are some core signs. And the language that goes with that is like what Crystal was saying, right? It's like, it's not a big deal. Or the one that's,
God, this one
I,
kills
I
me.
just don't want to be difficult. Right? Like, I don't want to cause any problems, or I should be able to handle that.
Now, I will never say that. And I use never intentionally, like, what? You don't want to be difficult? What? You matter too, first of all. Thank you. Yeah, that the other one, the last one that you said, I should be able to handle it. We just will keep repeating this until you hear it. Until you hear us in your head, we will keep repeating this. What good does it do to be shitting on yourself? Shitting all over yourself of what you should be able to handle. I don't know who's setting those expectations because they're not working, right? So like, okay, the core signs, the language, what does it sound like? Where does it start? So like when that core sign and that language shows up, like where are some areas that these women can identify this in their body? Let's get some of the somatics in there too.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is going to be very similar to other areas of upregulation, right? So you're going to notice tight jaw, clenching of the jaw, right? Maybe you might ball your fists. A lot of people they have an internal temperature rise. Like, you're going to be agitated because there's a cost associated with the promise that you're making. And you've also set a big expectation for yourself that you're perceiving as high risk, right? So if I don't show up and do the thing that I said I was going to do to accommodate everybody else, then I'm going to be judged or looked at in a certain way because of it.
Right. And that is where we start to create a story about what it means about us. And we're telling you, let's interrupt that before it gets there. Right.
Yeah.
Because we know these, like, we're giving you the playbook. Right. And so when these happen, it's like, okay. So where does this start? Right. It starts with when self-abandonment is essentially a safety strategy, right? Again, a lot of this comes back to safetyness. I learned early on how to be, what to do, what to say, right? In order for approval, ultimately is love, right?
Acceptance.
Acceptance, right? In order to avoid conflict, right? Because if there's conflict or if there's any kind of upregulation, it's not safe. It's danger, right? Or it's I don't want to make waves, right? So it's
and that's deeply rooted, right? Like, this is conditioning that goes back to primary behavior in hunter-gatherer times, right? Like, women requiring the safety of men. And so if I learn that when I do things to please other people, not even just men, if I do things that to please other people, then I'm accepted by the tribe. I'm kept safe, right? If I create conflict, then I may be cast out. I may not be accepted, right? And so that creates a dangerous environment for me, right? So this is biological in nature. And we have to recognize that things are not the same as they always once were. And we have to start to see where we can drive outer choices with the tone that we're using with ourselves, where we don't have to please and perform. So if you were to think about something that's often learned by younger women is good girls don't do XYZ.
That good girl conditioning. Oh my goodness.
Right? Like, if good girls stay quiet, or good girls don't get angry or mad. Good girls don't make waves, right? Or cause problems.
They're not
right. Right. And like, can I evaluate that and look at, okay, this may have felt like it kept me safe at some point in my journey, and what is it costing me now?
That one.
Coming in with that curiosity.
That's that question, right? I encourage you to each each of these pieces today, the questions that you hear, to write those down so you can start repeating them to yourself, because it is going to be a cost. And before it turns into resentment, there's been enough of that cost that has been building up in that bank.
Yeah. And it's also very much rooted in like relationship to self, right? Like if I struggle with giving myself reassurance, then I'm going to be seeking it externally. And that is what's going to create my own safety, as opposed to me being able to do that for me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this is a struggle of mine that I is my journey. Right. But I've never met anyone that self-abandons that does not have a fear of being abandoned. Like that's what it's rooted in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I self-abandon because I have a fear that if I don't accommodate, if I don't,
I will be abandoned.
Yeah, I will be abandoned. And can we look at, okay, where am I trying to source that acceptance, that reassurance, that love? And could I provide some of that to myself so that I can, again, show up authentically?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what building that inner safety with yourself starts, right? Nobody else can do that for you, essentially, because it's still someone outside of yourself. Okay, let's talk about, so we identified where it starts. Let's bring in some of the body here.
Yeah, because you can't create that safety if you're upregulated all the time.
Right. You can't, like, so for example, when boundaries come in, right? I think people hear the word boundary and maybe have mixed feelings about it, right? The boundary that you set is ultimately not for anyone else, it's for you. Because when we incorporate the body, right, from a nervous system that is flooded, right, you can't set exactly what you need if you don't know. So bringing in the body and seeing where, okay, like what exactly do I need, right? Hand to heart, one over your stomach, right? And tap in, right? Where am I feeling this? And we start to identify, like, okay, I see that, I'm starting to leave myself here, or like go against myself, right? Like I see that I'm doing that. Okay. Again, just like the voice, like I hear you, right? And then I'm leaning into this, right? Or I'm choosing this, whether that's compassion or whether that's reassurance, or whether that's just like I'm leaning into safety here. Like I get this feels unsafe and I'm wanting to do this, so let me put that internally back into me, right? You can't set a clean boundary from a flooded nervous system, right? Because you're upregulated, right? So we got to come back to the breath, right? One hand over your heart, one hand over your stomach. Take 4 inhales in and 6, like slowly out. The exhale,
and also recognize that like the boundary is not telling other people what to do.
Correct.
It is allowing people to understand what is required to interact with me. Right. So it's protecting my peace, protecting my needs. It doesn't have to mean that I'm doing anything to anybody else.
Correct.
Because the difference is like if I'm trying to control somebody else's behavior, that's not a clean boundary.
Right. The boundary doesn't have to be a stiff arm, right? The boundary is an olive branch for yourself, essentially, right? But I think sometimes when we have felt boundaries maybe from other people, it's that feeling of like, oh, you know what I mean? But in reality, it's like, oh, well, then that have you set them from yourself if that's how you're responding to someone else's boundary? And that's like a key indicator of like, again, that question again, what is it in this moment I need right now?
Yeah. And so if we were looking at shifting this, right? So we have awareness of a self-abandonment pattern. We understand that it's rooted in a fear response. And can we shift it to a self-loyal type of language? Right? So something like, which we already talked about, of like, oh yeah, I can make it work. Right. If that not being the go-to, like take a pause and recognize like, okay, I can't do that, but I can offer this as an alternative. Right. Like blowing it off or minimizing it and saying like, I'm fine or it's fine. Like, give a clean no. Like that doesn't work for me. And no is a complete sentence. You don't have to say why.
Yeah,
And I know that seems really weird for people.
Yeah, you're gonna want to, but or not want to. Like, I think it's until you start to practice
It's
it
a
enough.
compulsion.
Like honor
Yeah.
the no, right? And don't feel like if you're not explaining. You know what's interesting to say here? I guarantee you, the people that are saying no and explaining are still explaining that in their head later. But what if you just tried it? No.
Yeah. Or like people that feel the need to apologize all the time, right? Like
I'm so
women
sorry.
are constantly apologizing for having feelings, apologizing for being early, apologizing for it's like any little thing, right? That's perceived as like it doesn't meet someone else's expectations or it's heaven forbid, upsetting in any way to anyone else's desired outcome is like we apologize for it. And it's like instead of always apologizing, what if you thanked people instead? Right. So instead of being like, oh, I'm so sorry that I'm late, it's like, thank you for your patience.
Bar.
Oh,
Yeah. Especially, you know what, this time of year, because my phone's like this right now. I'm feeling overwhelmed by my phone. And so when I get back to people, I'm not sorry I didn't text you back right away. Like, no, it's not sorry I didn't text you back right away, right? Thank you for your patience. Thank you for awaiting my response. Whatever it is,
yeah.
right? Like, thank them and then say what you got to say. You don't have to go into this big explanation.
Yeah, but that requires a pause.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to say the line, right? We got to say the thing out loud, and then we got to take that breath. You think you're breathing, right? Because obviously you're alive. We have to be breathing. But we don't normally take an intentional breath because that's not normal. An intentional breath afterwards, like, that doesn't work for me. Damn, that feels good. That doesn't work for me. That's an intentional breath, not that doesn't work for me. Like, you're holding that breath in there, and I guarantee you're thinking about all the ways that, oh my God, well, she said that, right? And then you're continuing to think about it. The breath is very important in that piece.
Yeah. And if that pause that comes with the breath can be helpful in the moment, that can also be translated to creating a pause to make a choice, right? Or a decision. So like when a request is made of you, there's nothing that says that you have to provide an answer on the spot in the moment. So create some space for yourself, create a pause for yourself, right? If I recognize that when my automatic people-pleasing, desiring brain creates this yes, this compulsive yes, and that creates a delayed resentment later, and that's what's the little self-abandonment. If I can recognize that pattern, then can I start to be really intentional about creating space for myself between what I'm going to allow to be my commitment and what the request is? So could you say, like, can I confirm tomorrow? Right? Or I'll let you know by the end of the day. Or, I'll circle back to you with details. It doesn't have to be, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, everything doesn't have to. I think, especially around boundaries, right? It's like you're setting these boundaries for yourself, but you're still addressing everything else with so much urgency, which why even set the fucking boundary if we're going to immediately give the response that we haven't even give ourselves time to develop what the boundary is, right? So that pause is just super important. And the pause, I want you to think of the pause as the gateway to then choice, because immediately when you respond right off the bat, right? It's like a vending machine. You put in the thing, you got to take a second to decide what you want out the vending machine, right? And if you don't and you press it too quick, it's just going to give you whatever you pressed, right? So you got to take a second there. That auto yes is that micro version of self-abandoning. And this is out of these, take one phrase and start to practice it. Right? Start to use it in the next time where you want to just immediately give a yes, because then you're going to start to take inventory of there's two options here. There's a yes and a no, and you can honor both. Right? So Self-abandonment happens, right? Let's normalize that. Like, we don't need to shame ourselves for it, but we also need to become aware of when we're doing it. And so it's not about never doing it again, right? I think the times when we do it is the times when we learn the most, right? We're continuing to operate in this behavior because we have not learned whatever lesson that this is trying to teach us. And maybe it's a deep-rooted lesson, right? So when you have already abandoned yourself in the past or before, right? We normalize it and know I can repair it quickly, right? I don't have to, just because I've done it like this before, continue doing it like this. And ultimately, this helps me then create a plan of, okay, what do I need to do? Like, okay, I said, for example, like Laken said, I said yes too fast. Like, here's what I can do. Let me just take a step back and reevaluate, right? Reevaluating that plan just allows you to then acknowledge, like, okay, like this is a pattern maybe that keeps coming up and I get decided to do different.
Yeah, and this is where we can start to get into identity work, right? When we work with clients on who are you becoming? Who are you wanting to show up as? Who is the most authentically expressed version of yourself? How does she show up for herself? What are the things that she stays loyal to herself on? Right. So that can be a good framework to redirect you in those moments where old patterns want to come up, or I start to feel that need to accommodate or people please. Can I recognize, oh, that's right. She would do this because these are the things that she's labeled as non-negotiables. These are the places where she knows that if she remains loyal to herself, ultimately she won't have that resentment that creeps in later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then it's like when you start to, if you want to change the behavior and you want to do something that you never done before, you have to choose like that prototype or that archetype, right? Or choose your becoming and then start acting like her. And a couple things that you can do of like, if you're like, oh, I don't know where to start. I don't know what she looks like, right? I'm still getting to know her kind of thing, right? Start with just 3 words. What do you want her to look like? Right? How do you want her to feel? How do you want to handle the situation that you've been handling in the same way in a different way? And what outcomes would you like? What would those qualities be of how someone would handle it? Okay, let's talk about the cost. That we talked about this a lot, right? When we are doing this and we are continuing to do this, eventually that cost keeps adding to the bank and it adds up. So why does this matter, the cost and the evidence?
The cost is that resentment. Resentment is like weeds. It gets very deeply rooted and it spreads very easily and it grows very quickly over time, right? It has a compound effect. So in order to alleviate that, you have to cut it out by the root, and nothing eliminates resentment better and more effectively than authenticity, than transparency. Right. I need to be able to be transparent in my communication in the way that I show up and show up without that mask in order to alleviate resentment that I'm going to feel in that moment. If I overcommit myself, if I overextend myself, if I do things because I think other people want me to do them, if I have to show up a certain way, right? I have a client that I was doing a session with, and it's interesting how these, we are very quick to collect evidence that works against us, as opposed to for us, right? So her family goes on an annual beach trip every year. It's a whole bunch of them. One year, something happens where essentially there's a whole group of them that are down at the beach. A couple of the kids, there's a bunch of kids, like 20 people, right? A bunch of the kids want to go back to the house. They're tired. She takes a group of them back up to the house, leaves her kids down at the beach. She's with a group of the other kids. Her husband's also there. The rest of the adults come back up to the house and are carrying the stuff from the beach and everything. And her sister makes a comment of her not being a good mom because she's not even watching her own kids. Right. And so that turned from an enjoyable vacation where she felt like she was able to have fun, play with everybody, engage, have time to herself still, read her book, go for runs, all the things, right? Everybody's on vacation. Everybody's like co-opting and watching each other's kids. It's all fine. To, oh, now I'm being judged for this thing. And now this is a consequence, right? So now every year when I show up, I have to put the mask on. I have to be on. I'm not allowed to be in vacation mode. I have to make sure that I am seen having my eyes on my kids at all times so that people see me with the super mom hat on.
She created a story about what that meant about her.
Right. And at the end of the day, what this is really coming from is a projection, which most judgments are, right? Like her sister felt a certain way about the fact that her child was younger and she had to keep her eyes on her kid all the time.
Right. Well, let's go back to the words, right? Like you're not even watching your child.
Right. And so, but what that's really coming to is I feel like a bad mom if I'm not watching my child. Right. But then because that happened, now she's showing up differently, which is creating even more tension and resentment. And the only way that resentment is going to be reversed is through vulnerability and transparency. Right. I need to be able to show up as my authentic self and let you feel however you feel.
Right. Because other people's perception of you is none of your goddamn business. But it's what your perception of you is. And what could leading into that vulnerability look like? You know, we talk about this a lot, and I think, you know, I want to start doing this when we chat about these things, because for a lot of women, like maybe they don't know what that looks like. It's like, okay, however that made you feel, can you pull that sister to the side and let them know, like, hey, and I guarantee you that sister has moved on. She doesn't even recognize that probably when she said that altered or changed her behavior, but she knows that. Right? Can I pull that sister to the side and have a vulnerable conversation? It may feel uncomfortable, yeah. But ultimately, once you express it, right, and you decide to start showing up and after you've expressed what it is that you're feeling, and then you start to show up more authentically as yourself, I guarantee you that sister probably is going to relate to you of like, yeah, I was also feeling like that, right? Because you said her daughter's the younger one. And she does have to have her eyes.
But then you can that's where you can collect the evidence that works in your favor instead of that works against you.
Right.
Right. I can collect evidence that shows when I show up as a version of myself that feels at ease, that is comfortable in my own skin, that is freely and fully expressed, then nothing bad happens. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Somebody might pass some judgment that I can understand now as a projection, and I can have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the evidence here, the main part is that the evidence is building the trust. And if we can keep collecting evidence in the negative, why the hell can't we in the positive as well? Right? We can a case for us rather than against us.
Exactly. Anything else on self-abandonment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory, ladies, and self-abandonment does not taste good. Like I said, it tastes like vinegar. Like nobody wants to say, I self-abandon, right? And the only person it's like saying, hi, I'm Crystal and I self-abandon. You know, nobody wants to say that.
Yeah.
But if you recognize that you're doing it, the only person that can change who is abandoning themselves is you, right? Self-abandonment. We have to be the one to change that. And let's start to normalize if that continues to come up, right? I'm not saying continue to self-abandon, but let's normalize when it does come up. Oh, okay, clearly it keeps coming up to show you, hey, girl, can we make a change here? Because this ain't working.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's loud because it's trying to teach you something about yourself, right? And so bring in the steadiness to combat that. Bring in the expression. Bring in the evidence of the wins, and allow that to shift into that self-loyalty. Where can I be loyal to myself today? Where can I get a rep of showing up for me? Where can I make me feel like the top priority?
Yeah. Where can I not create a story about what this means about me, but take it in as information of how I get to do different next time, right? Yeah. And if you're stuck in this people-pleasing spiral, or you find yourself of like, yeah, I self-abandon often and I hate that shit, right? Perfect. Last episode, we chatted with you guys. Request a reframe. It's in our show notes. It's in the link in our bio. We want you to submit that spiral or that dilemma or like that story, right, that you've been telling yourself of why this keeps showing up. Submit it to us anonymously and we will remix it for you on a future episode. I guarantee you, the client who example that we give is like, oh, okay, that's what they told me. And that's my opportunity I get to do next time. So request a reframe.
I guarantee other women have been in that same situation, if not very similar. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why we do that. That's why there's a beauty in the sharing.
Yeah. Beauty and sharing to learn from each other. This one was a short one. It's nice, short and sweet. It's Merry Christmas, right? I'm pretty sure by the time you guys listen to this, it'll be Christmas. And if you find yourself self-abandoning this holiday season, give yourself the gift to do something different. Give yourself the gift of like, okay, I'm recognizing I'm doing this and I don't want to do this anymore and I get to change it. That's a gift in itself.
Yes.
All right.
A gift of self-loyalty.
Being loyal to yourself. Are you loyal? All I hear is DJ Khaled's voice. What does he say?
Another one.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right, ladies. Rate and review.
Yes.
Happy holidays. We
Like,
love you all.
Share.
See you
Do
next
all the
time.
things. Yes. See you later. Bye-bye.